The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster my good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. Open line today through till 1, so lots to get your teeth into today. The bus fares have gone up for school children. Apparently mental health is the priority for Manx Care. Mental health, well-being and children's services are the priorities for Manx Care in the year ahead. And the Roundhouse, still that nursery's not open there. And also, Tim Glover says it's not too late for Alfred Cannon to avoid a vote of no confidence. Getting a little ahead of himself, perhaps. But anyway, whatever's on your mind, that and anything else, text, email, call and WhatsApp. And Howard's first on today. Hi, Howard.
Hi, Andy. Just thought I'd get me 2 pennyworth in early. Tim Krukall, the DOI minister.
Yeah.
How stupid does he think the people are on the island? They're treating us like plebs. Sunday, I saw the headlines on Manx Radio's news. The DOI needs to resolve tramway terrace issue before seeking horse tram track funding. Well, that's already in Hansard, the track funding. The money was there. It disappeared. The tramway, stables, etc., is a totally different entity, and that's the one that should be seeking funds, because the funds were already allocated, the rails are bought, the area is laid out for the horse trams to go through to the sea terminal, yet they're still hemming and hawing, and they said it won't be talked about until 2024. Well, we're lumbering gently into the 3rd month of 2024, and this is what the spin doctors up at government office are bringing out to the public, thinking that'll keep them happy for another 10 minutes. It said, currently the tramway runs between Derby Castle and Broadway. Tim was previously supporting proposal to install the rails through to the sea terminal, and that's all in Hansard. Infrastructure Minister Tim Krukall says his department still needs to put a case to Treasury for funding, but the maintenance issues at Tramway Terrace need to be resolved first. So, in other words, that contract on the promenade is incomplete. That magic word, incomplete, before they're opening up and moving off onto other tangents. And this is where somebody in government is determined not to get those trams running all the way to the sea terminal.
And do you think they're trying to, if you like, kind of obfuscate about this, just to keep us dangling on a string in the hope that we'll all kind of just disappear off into the distance in boredom and they can get away with the trams only halfway?
Well, while I'm drawing breath, it won't become boredom, because it's a disgrace that our government ministers are acting in such a manner, yet there is the Department for Enterprise, who was Tim Krukall's little baby recently. He was the be-all, end-all there. He's now on the opposite side, and they're boasting about the number of cruise ships that's going to come to the island, bring people in. And another one of Tim Krukall's little pets is the sea wall. That was supposed to start in January. I haven't seen a thing down there yet, but all our visiting people off the cruise ships will have to go through a building site. Are they going to be issued with hard hats and high-vis jackets, which will be farcical? They don't see, they're like a dog chasing his tail. It doesn't know where it's going. And something's going to come up and bite them in the butt. But also, I was listening there that Larry Hooper, he said that he won't allow the Roundhouse to open before there is a zebra crossing. Well, they've already done that. They've permitted that down at the sea terminal. DOI put in a black and white marked stretch in the car park. They altered the car park to suit it, and that was to allow pedestrians safe. And I almost got run over there recently, walking through. God help it, was a learner driver. But I looked around afterwards, and that. Now, somebody can verify or tell me I'm wrong, but that is not a clearly marked zebra crossing.
No, there's certainly no Belisha beacons either side of it. There's nothing to say that. And also, it has to be said that the paint's a bit faded. Yes,
well, that's in lots of cases around, but the legality of it, if I'd have been hit by that car, and her instructor was apologetic. I said, it's fine. I said, but then that's when I realised there's nothing there to indicate that is a zebra crossing. And it was boasted by that they were putting in for safe access and egress from the car park to the sea terminal. But again, as in true Manx government fashion now, it's half a job. So Laurie Hooper wants to go back and have a look at what he's doing himself by preventing the roundhouse. Somebody's got a bitch into this. They're picking up little things that trying to stop it because Braddan have suddenly been successful, whereas the Manx government, well, they've got that many half jobs around the place that, it's we used to call half-baked. But this is a disgrace where the spin doctors within government now are feeding the public rubbish and say that'll do. They'll believe that. That'll keep them quiet for another couple of weeks. And that thing about the horse trams, they're two separate entities and they should be treated as such, and the horse trams should go all the way to the sea terminal. So let's see if we get an answer from somebody within government or an answer from somebody in the public, because the plebs can't speak.
OK, all right, appreciate that, Howard. Thanks for being with us today.
Take care. Bye now.
Good to hear from you. It'll be interesting to see this coming Wednesday because 2 Douglas MHKs are on. We're going around the constituencies, being halfway through this administration. And it's Douglas North on Wednesday. David Ashford and John Wannenberg will be on. Let's see what they both think of this. The ministry confirms it can extend the case to extend the tramway. It hasn't gone to Treasury yet. DOI needs to complete the work at Tramway Terrace before seeking funds to extend the horse tram tracks on the prom. Currently, the tram runs between Derby Castle and Broadway, despite Tynwald previously supporting proposals to reinstall the rails through to the sea terminal. Tim Crokel, as you heard, says his department still needs to put the case to Treasury for funding. The maintenance issues at Tramway Terrace have to be done first. You got that? Tramway Terrace first, then go to Treasury with the begging bowl and say, can we put the horse trams through to the sea terminal, which you've previously approved?
First and foremost, we need to get Tramway Terrace sorted first and make that safe so we can get in and out of the stables and get the horses in and out running on the half circuit, if you like. And then we'll have to look for the money and put a case back to Tynwald in Treasury for finishing it.
Tim Crokel, MHK, there he is, DOI Minister. David's on now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. Great to see you back, mate. Listen, the question I'm going to put out there now, is Laurie Hooper now a dictator and not a minister? I just wondered what Mr. Hooper's angle is regarding the roundhouse. He doesn't like it, whether Braddan's been successful or not. And here we go. This morning, he's not giving permission for the nursery to take place. And I wonder why we have politicians at one end of the scale, and then ministers, the council ministers, and then Tynwald itself, if they can't resolve issues. It's a multi-million-pound project. It's there. It went through planning, and here we have a minister dragging things backwards. He's actually ran the issue up to a cul-de-sac now, in my opinion, and he can't get out.
I mean, Braddan commissioners say that, they've got a letter from, the one-time Health and Social Care Minister, Mr. Quayle, before he was Chief Minister, saying it's okay. And so now we're surely somebody saw this was going to happen. Surely somebody flagged this up.
Well, to give you the insight too, I was in Mr. Quayle's when he was Minister for Health. I was in social care, and I remember the issues, and I'm just so sorry I never kept things from years ago. You get loads and loads of stuff, and it piles. But I remember the issue coming up, and the Roundhouse being done, or a project that was coming forward. I remember the issue itself. I remember Mr. Quayle and other politicians at the time talking about it. But here we are. It's been going now. I forget what the construction's been going now for, say, 18 months, say 2 years. Here we have a wonderful place if nobody's ever seen it. And here we have a minister who's playing hardball with the local authority instead of saying to the local authority, how can we help you resolve this particular issue, when they've got no responsibility for the highway?
It's almost as though surely, Braddan's a big, it's a big chunk of the Isle of Man, and they're responsible commissioners. You've then got a minister who himself is a constituency MHK. Surely they know the public is going to look at this, look sideways and narrow their eyes and say, boys, what's going on?
It is. And who's it affecting? It's not affecting the politicians. It's affecting the people who want to use the place, the businesses that want to be there, the nursery. I listened to the lady this morning about the nursery and saying she doesn't know where to put her children. And the minister's statement says, because it must be true because it's on Manx Radio, is we're not here to support welfare for the children. What is he there for, I wonder? And let's get some of these politicians, instead of in the last Timbled, talking about a missing salt bin. Come on. Let's do something proper.
All right. Good to hear from you.
Then.
Thanks for that. It's, what are we now? 18 minutes past 12. Tony's on now. Hi, Tony.
Hi, good to hear you back, Andy. I hope you're fully recovered.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I'm surprised because of that shock budget you got. I want two things. One, the budget. It's not a social budget. That's why they keep piping that. I don't know. It's not a social budget. You are taxing people at the lower end of the scale, or lower end of the earnings levels, who can't afford it because they're paying more out. Why didn't the brain boxes who are in the departments that suggest things to the idiot in charge, why didn't they suggest that you go with a higher tax band, say over 45,000, which would include all of the MHKs, and charge them 40% of their amount over a certain amount, over 45, say, and also stop any contributions to pensions once you reach that 45,000 band. In other words, if you earn over 45,000, you don't need to have extra amount added to your pension pot above that level. That would have had two effects. One, you would reduce your future pension exposure, and two, you would have much more income from the higher tax bracket rather than penalising the people on low income. And you could have reduced the amount you're wanting to charge the lower income to 1%, at least, I would think. But we didn't even look at that, apparently. That was obviously the people in charge all earn too much money and don't want to pay any more tax. And they want their pensions as high as possible, which means the more they get increases, the higher their pension goes. So I think Alf Cannon and Allenson are a disgrace. I think the whole government should resign and we should start all over again. That's one thing.
So just let me get this straight then. Instead of that tax rise, what would you have done specifically?
Well, the first thing I would have done is said, OK, over 45,000, which I think is a substantial amount of money, you pay your lower level tax up to 45, and over 45, everything over 45 is 40 or 50% tax. And they still get net income out of it, but they're paying a lot more tax. And that means the higher paid people contribute more, which even Bonzo agrees with. You know, I don't disagree with a lot of stuff Bonzo says, or just how it's stated, but this is just asinine to say that this is a social budget. It's asinine. It's not a social budget. It's a budget that's going to squeeze the lower income, not the middle, it's the lower income. And it's a disgrace.
Do you think they're in any way cautious then about offending high net worth individuals on the island?
High net worth individuals only pay a capped amount of tax, so it wouldn't bother them. It's only the ones between 40,000 or 45,000, whatever you put the number at, and the higher tax bracket where it's capped. And the ones who are higher taxed and capped off, they don't care anyway. They're saving billions in tax. So I don't think that's an issue. I think it's the high net worth people that is not the people we shouldn't be taxing. We should be taxing people who've got more money. And, it's not a case of I'm a socialist. I'm not. I believe in people earning more money. I believe in people getting paid a lot of money. But if you compared this to the UK, they'd be on 60% tax once they get over 35,000.
Yeah.
So, and we're not even anywhere near that. No, we'll leave them at 2% or 10%, 20%. It's wrong. It's just wrong in essence. You are punishing the people at the lower end and rewarding the people at the upper end. So how can you call it a socialist budget? It's not a social budget at all. It's a budget for rich people. So I think they should basically stop piping that message because it's not true. And I think they should all have a good look at themselves in the mirror because I think they're a disgrace.
And what else was on your mind?
Right, the other thing was there's been a lot of arguments going back and forwards about drilling rigs and drilling geothermal wells. Now, the well that was proposed, I think, the hot rock well, is not really geothermal. It doesn't produce steam. It produces hot water, okay? That's the idea, all right? But the costs that keep coming in that get thrown around are rubbish. Shell, BP, those two companies, among others, do not own drilling rigs. So they get a drilling contractor to come in and do that drilling work for them. They are responsible for the licence, the design, and also the cost. But they pay somebody to do it, just like you pay somebody to come and dig a hole in the garden. Same issue. So the drilling rig, if you've got an onshore drilling rig, not an offshore one, but an onshore drilling rig, cost is around about, allow for the DOI special, £30,000 a day. Now that includes diesel generators. You do not plug any rig into the mains electric. So I don't know where that comment came from, that you wouldn't suit the electricity supply. That's absolute nuts. They had their own generators. They're diesel electric generators typically. And those diesel electrics power the rig entirely, everything. The mud pumps, the drilling rig, the rotation, the pulling in and out, the draw works, the lot. All that's powered from their own supply. So once that rig's in place, you then pay and you'll have to pay a mode charge. You pay so much a day, and the rig will do what you tell it to do. If you say, right, keep drilling straight, it'll drill straight. If you say, I want it deviated, they'll try and drill deviated. And the idea that the ground all of a sudden loses all its heat is rubbish, because if you think about it, when you produce oil, it still produces oil or gas at the same temperature as the reservoir. So why would it lose all its temperature? It won't. So the idea that you drill a well and it's no good after 10 weeks, it's lost all its heat, is nuts. So I don't know where all these people are coming from with these ideas, but the way to find out the truth is for somebody in the government to phone up a drilling contractor, ask them how much it costs to mobilise a rig to here, 2,000 horsepower or above it would have to be, I think, and you need to then ask the geophysicist what depth do we need to go to, and those two answers will give you what size rig you want.
Okay, and we'd have to know, wouldn't we, how much the rig could do per day and how far we need to go down?
Correct. How far you need to go down is driven by what a geoscientist would say about Earth temperature, and Earth temperature is standard across the world. There are hot spots, but basically it's 1.5 degrees F per 100 feet, I think, or I think it's 30 degrees per 1,000 metres or something like that. But you can drill a well to 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 metres and you can get quite hot. All oil and gas, that all comes out the reservoir very hot. It's not cold. And it turns up at surface hot. I mean, there's wellheads in the world. You go over there, you can fry eggs on them. They're that hot. So the idea that you don't get anything hot out of the ground is rubbish. So I don't know where a lot of the information is coming from, but it's hearsay, a lot of it.
Well, so, I think what you say, it will be lovely for somebody to get some actual figures from, as you say, from a drilling contractor, just to say if you're saying £30,000 a day, crikey, how much is that a month?
$1 million a month, say.
£1 million a month to drill a hole.
Yeah, so you could reckon £6 million. That will give you 6 months drilling, and then you'd put on top of that, you'd have to buy some steel pipe to put in the ground, cement, and a few other things that go with it to get your well to the depth you want it at. And the casings, the pieces of steel you put in the ground, are like a telescope. In other words, they're concentric and they get smaller and smaller as you get deeper. So one slides inside the other. You start off with a big pipe, then you go down one and down one and down one, and there's standard sizes for that. So it's not rocket science, and they do drill onshore wells in the UK. So it's not something that's, we've never done that before. Okay, they're drilling them for shale gas. So there's plenty of experience. Geothermal wells are slightly different, where you're drilling into very hot steam or rock that is going to give you steam at surface, or very, very hot water at surface, which will then turn to steam.
Okay, well,
they're slightly different.
You were in petrochemicals how long, Tony?
35 years, too long.
So, I mean, how old is that figure of £30,000 a day for a drilling rig?
That's today's figure. So I looked, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, that it was millions of pounds a day. So I just went on and had a look. You can go on the web and just type in day rig rates, how much does it cost for a drilling rig, onshore UK, and just say onshore UK, drilling rig rates. And it will come up with its X amount, roughly.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that, Tony.
There's plenty of drilling companies out there. There's more than one in the UK.
All right. Thanks for calling.
Hey, you take care.
Good to hear
from you. Give that cough to somebody else.
All right. Thanks for calling today. Thanks also to Kay, who just said, my concerns are why we're paying more for a dilapidated Isle of Man and poor service. Also, I think we've had second-rate hospital care since Manx Care took over. Well, they were instructed to take over, weren't they? I mean, Manx Care was created because of the Michaels report. Kay says we've got no new dentists, we've got dilapidated buildings, and where for children to go, nowhere for children to go during the summer holidays. Kay says Mr. Cannon says he has a vision, but is he looking through rose-coloured glasses? Well, I'm sure Mr. Cannon would say he's not, but there we are. So this story about little cherubs is very intriguing. A parent said the uncertainty around the opening of this nursery at the Roundhouse in Braddan is unacceptable and will affect her children's future. This is the story about this brand new leisure centre that Braddan commissioners have built. It's called the Roundhouse. It cost a couple of million odd pounds. They built it, and now it's up. The DHSC is saying that the road that accesses it goes through some hospital land and they can't use it. DHSC Minister Laurie Hooper has said his department will not give parents affected any support. A parent said the uncertainty around the opening of the nursery at the Roundhouse is unacceptable, will affect her children's future. Scylla's hoping to send her little child to Little Cherubs. I mean, Little Cherubs is a business. You know, it's a public service in that it's childcare, but, you know, it's a nursery, and they've got a tenancy at the Braddan Community Centre. But the opening's been delayed due to that 28-day notice to stop access to the site issued by the Department of Health and Social Care. Scylla says she's now in a position where she may struggle financially to support her family and could have to stop working to look after her toddler. And she says she's not the only one.
I don't think this is okay for everyone, especially for parents who doesn't have childcare, and one of them is us. My husband and myself, we are both working full time. At the moment, I'm working when he's off, but it's been extremely hard to find the balance. And When we received this email, we both were really, really worried and decided not to leave this slip and speak up about it because the issue needs to be fixed. Honestly, I am not the only one. Well, I don't understand that an access was proposed and granted back in 2016, such a late stage. Why everything started just now when it is so late to do everything. Doesn't make any sense what they're doing. I understand where Mr. Lowry Hooper is coming from, but it's such a late state, it will honestly impact.
Well, there's Scylla talking about what's going to happen now at the Roundhouse. Well, let's hear from the boss of Little Cherubs, Director Teresa Barton. They've been contacting government ministers and MHKs to get answers about the situation, but they've only really had generic replies. Teresa says it's been difficult for the company and becoming increasingly more so. So at company, she's hopeful about the situation and she reckons a resolution about access can be found. Well, people in business are generally optimistic. Alicia Barton says parents are anxious and worried about what's going to happen next to their children.
So the decisions that we're having to make is, with not being able to move to the new nursery, our children have to stay where they are. So any parents who had signed up to us to start, and also children who have started, we're having to make decisions of who actually we can give childcare to. This week we had the difficult decision to tell some parents that we had to reduce their days because we couldn't accommodate everyone, but we're trying to accommodate as many as we possibly can. And it is really difficult because parents now are really upset, they're very anxious, they're panicking, they need to go to work, they need childcare. As much as you want to rely on relatives, family members, it's not always possible. So the most consistency that you have is childcare, and that is not happening at the moment.
Really, at this point, it doesn't matter who's to blame. What matters is a solution. Braddan commissioners have done their best to put in place lots of safety mitigations that the DHSC have asked of them. However, it still isn't enough. For some reason, they still want more. There is no reason why they shouldn't come to a solution. Really, if there is no solution or compromise, we need answers as to why. There is no reason why we should have to go to court. There is no reason why we should be delayed for another year.
It's from Little Cherubs, Director Teresa Barton and Nursery Manager Alicia Barton talking about what can you imagine this? Everybody's backed into a corner because of this. You got Braddan commissioners, you got the DHSC, and of course Manx Care operating the hospital. There's the business, Little Cherubs, and the children. It's the children. We're talking about childcare. And they're waiting at the back of it, just looking hopefully at Little Cherubs and wanting to go to spend the day with their pals. You wonder what's going to happen, don't you? Manx Radio is 60 years old this year. Did you know that? We are. Started in 1964. And every Monday on Mannin Line, just after Mannin Line, we look back over the years. And today after Mannin Line, we'll be back in 1979, our Millennium year. Remember that? That was fun. We're looking back at the Odin's Raven voyage from Norway to the Isle of Man in 1979.
Bigger jackpots, more prizes, more chances to win. There's never been a better time to play the Hospice Lottery. Now with 42 guaranteed prizes every month and double the monthly rollover prize, a massive £1,000. Building our £10,000 rollover jackpots quicker than ever. Tickets just £5, so don't miss out and help a great local cause too. Visit hospice.org.im/lottery. Players must be over 16. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, I'd like to rent a car for 3 days. Just something reasonable.
No problem at all. We've just got a few rules to make you aware of. You can't go off island, you can't smile in the car, you can't take any friends, it's £10,000 a day, and you'll need £1 million deposit up front. Any questions?
Renting a car doesn't need to be so difficult or expensive. With prices from just £50 per day, speak to Rex Rental Company or book online at rexrental.im.
Rex Rentals. I'm so glad to hear that.
Island Hearing Limited, your local hearing care specialist since 2009 with branches in Port Erin and Ramsey. We provide the very latest hearing aid technology available, which you can try at home, with excellent aftercare and a wax removal service available using microsuction. Give us a ring on 830 722 or visit Island Hearing at 1 Station Road, Port Erin. We're happy to help. Island Hearing, always listening.
We make oil heating easy with our range of services. Whether it's our free smart tank monitoring systems or just our efficient all-island deliveries, Ellen Vannin Fuels has it covered. Call us on 844 000 to find out more.
Julie Edge has been replaced as Education Minister in what the Chief Minister has termed a strategic change. All parties are at pains to mention that this was not a sacking, but Miss Edge responded to news of her departure by saying that, as the difficult woman who regularly challenges decisions and offers the public perspective, I'm not surprised. So what's going on? We hear the departing minister's view on Agenda this evening at 6 p.m. on Manx Radio with me, Phil Gaughan. Is this the start of a much-needed reshuffle of the Council of Ministers? Will more ministerial heads roll, or is this just a convenient way to get an unpopular budget off the headlines?
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Eric's on now. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Andy. Just wanted to tell you something that happened at the weekend on Saturday. As you know, I'm disabled, and we're on the flight from the Isle of Man to Liverpool. And when we got to Liverpool, they allowed all the other passengers off, and then we would come off afterwards. We had to sit and wait. It was 10 minutes to get the first lot off, and we had to sit there and wait for 45 minutes on that plane, myself and 3 other disabled people, to get off the plane because they didn't have the lift to get us off.
That's the ambulift, isn't it, that comes up and opens and takes you into the little kind of caravan thing that goes down. Why was that? Have they only got one?
Well, they said there should be 2, but there was only one working. Now, the fellow from EasyJet said it's not them, it's actually Liverpool Airport that run that ambulift, and the fellow told me that it's going to get worse because they've got a new carrier coming in the summer, and that lift will have to be shared between all the others. Well, it's absolutely diabolical to have to sit in the plane for 45 minutes to get off.
And, I mean, did they do anything? Did they amuse you? Anything free? Any drinks or anything while you were there?
No, never had a drink, nothing. We just sat on the plane, waiting and waiting. And, like you say, 45 minutes. So it was an hour before we were out of that airport. And one of the women that were there was going on to another flight, and she just made it. Yeah, but somebody needs to look at that. Somebody from Rollsway should be in contact with Liverpool Airport, because how can you have people stuck on planes like that?
So, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, the responsibility is John Lennon Airport, isn't it? It's their ambulift, so they're responsible for getting. I just wonder whether there's any kind of service level where, it has to be out within a certain time.
Yeah, well, I would have thought they should be, but like I say, somebody from our airport needs to be in touch with Liverpool, because if it's happened to us this week and it's going to get worse, people are going to stop coming to the Isle of Man if you can't get off the plane when you get to Liverpool.
It's just another thing that, when it's got right, you feel fine and everything's okay, but it is so dispiriting for something like that. I know I've been in the situation before with somebody. I was accompanying somebody who needed the ambulift, and we had to wait, and it was at night time when we were waiting for it.
Yeah, well, when we got, I was getting on the flight the next day to Malaga, and when we got to Malaga, we were off that plane within 10 minutes. It works perfectly there. So why has Liverpool got it so wrong?
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? All right, thanks, Eric. We appreciate that.
I find it a bit amusing that I can take my buggy onto an aeroplane, but not onto a Manx bus.
Okay. All right. Thanks for calling today.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate that. Look at that time. It's 20-1 on Manx Radio. Yeah, it is. If you're not familiar with the story of Odin's Raven, by the way, tune in after we finish today. How do you feel about that? Have you ever used that ambulift or had cause to use or accompany somebody on the ambulift at John Lennon Airport? It's, the one and only time that I've used it, it wasn't what you call swift, the way we were using it. Thank you, Phil Edge, who reminds me that we should tip our hat because it is 4 years today since we lost the doyen of the Mannin Line set, host of Mannin Line throughout the 1990s, David Callister, passed away. Is it really 4 years? Wow, time flies, doesn't it? Thanks also. No tax cap change for the super rich. More than likely the rise is being ring-fenced for the ever-decreasing pension fund, not the NHS. It will be interesting to see how that whole thing is monitored, how you ring-fence the money. I mean, who's going to declare it? Is there going to be a monthly total of how much has been raised and then it's just channeled off to another account? Jane says, I think Laurie Hooper is laughing at the situation instead of trying to solve a problem. It didn't need to go this far. Alf needs to sack him for his behaviour. Well, again, we're going a little far. So we'll see. All I will point out to you, Jane, is Laurie Hooper topped the poll in Ramsey. He was far and away top of the poll in Ramsey. So, but anyway, that doesn't get anybody in terms of little cherubs anywhere, nor also the commissioners we'll hear from what the commissioners think about it. Ian said this debacle regarding the access road to the Roundhouse typifies the current state of the Isle of Man. How has this situation arisen? Braddan commissioners clearly felt they had access, so why at the last minute does it appear that they haven't? Well, they had the letter from Howard Quayle, the then Health and Social Care Minister. Government clearly isn't working. It's the public which pays the price. Time has come for a radical change in the way we're governed. Public don't have any confidence in the government. Well, Ian doesn't, obviously. Chief Minister, says Ian, appears to be out of his depth again. That's your opinion. Perhaps we need a completely new House of Keys. Well, you're going to have to wait a while because that's 2.5 years away for a new House of Keys. And remember that comparatively, this House of Keys is less experienced than previous House of Keys. We've had big churns in MHKs in the past, but this is a comparatively inexperienced House of Keys. It's also a comparatively inexperienced Legislative Council as well. Now, whether that has any impact or implication for the way the Isle of Man is at the moment, or you could just say, well, the world's in a state anyway. The money really from the 9/11 Twin Towers attacks, the world's really never been the same. We also had the 2008 financial crash. So everybody's in a pickle. It's not just us. The normally hard-working Germans are mostly on strike all this week, so you know that something's wrong with the world. Text, email, call and WhatsApp, and I want to go to Juan now. Juan's with us now. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Andy. Nice to hear your dulcet tones back again.
And you too as well.
Yes, indeed. I was trying to get on a few times, but it just wasn't convenient, and I wanted to get on and talk. I didn't want Alex and Phil to think that I was not liking them. And I was just looking back at when you came back and took the show over, and it took a good few weeks to get traction on the show. People get used to a voice on the show, and I think they were very used to Stu Peters at the time. And, of course, it boomed with COVID. And I think you hold the show together quite well, Andy. And I think it's shown that over the last few weeks. Phil's good, but if he gets hold of them buttons properly, we'll be doing some really good business. And I like Alex, and I think he's very, very good at the show. I don't think he likes doing it so much. But I think last week he started getting a bit opinionated. And I'm just going on to what Tony B just said before. And, I think John came on one day and said to Alex about, following down with Graham Fox-Hume, going on to the geothermal route. And Alex came back the next day with a statement from David Quirk. And I keep saying about people who have got dogs in races. And David Quirk's got a dog in the race. Now, you know Graham Fox-Hume. I know Graham Fox-Hume. And I think to try and, put down what that man was saying and saying that David Quirk has a lot more experience, I think is a little bit too opinionated, because this subject is a very, very deep subject. Probably about as deep as the borehole's going to be. And I think Tony B's just put that in perspective there, that people really need to look at this, because if this doesn't go right for us, like I've said before, we ain't got any more money to put this right the next time round. So I think it's really important that this government really look at it. And I don't get this. We've spoke to this many times about, a borehole and a drill, and it's going to cost 5 million, 6 million to do, which the way this government spend money is nothing. And for the future of what we could get out of this, with cheap electricity for the hospitals, cheap electricity for our schools, reasonable electricity for all our people, and there's so many places doing this that I just scratch my head why Andy, that the government are not persevering and looking in this. Is it just about money? And we've spoke about this before, and we're probably going to speak about it again. And the other thing I just wanted to say, I noticed Lamara Crane's piece this morning, ranting on about she wasn't given a fair hearing or something in the about the Paul Dewey site, the building that's going on in Ramsey. And she had a big petition out about it, which is fair enough, about a place of natural beauty and not being used. I just wondered whether Lamara actually did sign the petition for the Erie Staying, which is a place of natural beauty, or whether she still persists in that we need the electricity and let's do away with the bird life and the natural beauty. I'm just wondering if there's a little bit of NIMBYism coming in there. Just a few points, but
nobody's talking about Kroger much these days, though.
No, they're not. And if we look at the destabilisation that's going around everywhere, and, people are just lip service with what they say they're going to do, and they're not really going to do it. I look at things that's going on. I mean, I'm travelling all the time, and I look at things that's going on in America, things that's going on in Africa, and the truth's not out there for people. And I still think that this whole net zero and climate thing is a much bigger agenda to it. And you don't have to dig deep with a big spade to find the truth out. But everyone keeps going on about, social media and Rumble and all these places and not getting the facts and figures. Well, if mainstream media actually done investigative journalism and cutting journalism, people wouldn't have to go looking for the truth in other places. But I've got to say that, Manx Radio News is good at if Bob the dog goes missing. They're great to tell you that. But they avoid certain subjects as well, because I think we've discussed this before. You buy your news in from certain places. So you only get to put certain news out there, so people have to go searching for it. So I think to condemn social media and other places for getting your news from is wrong, as long as you follow it to the source and find out that the truth is behind it.
So what do you mean by not investigative journalism, or what particular subject?
I mean, there's lots of subjects, Andy, isn't there? I mean, the climate change for one, the geothermal, climate change, the oil, the petrochemical business, COVID. Let's not get started on that one, and COVID vaccinations. There's a lot of stuff that's happened in the very, very short future, the very short past that we've had, without going any deeper, that really needs investigation, and people are shying away from it. When you look at the people like Andrew Bridgen, who are standing up in government in England and asking for answers, and ministers and politicians are walking out and won't listen to him. Yeah. There's something wrong somewhere.
I could really depress you at this point, June, and tell you, we can do a lot of investigation into certain things, and the moment you put Bob the dog as a subject on, it goes absolutely wild. It's bizarre.
Yes,
so yes, I mean, and I was always told the public is never wrong. So where do we stand?
Well, we're in testing times. I think anyone who's going around thinking that there's something funky not going on is living in cloud cuckoo land. There is definitely a change going on within the world, and they're trying to do some kind of reset. Okay. And I think my thing was always about the Isle of Man, taking it back to local. Let's look after ourselves. Let's make sure we've got bread on the table, food on the table, water and energy.
Oh, well, all I will tell you, Juan, is that in terms of news for the Isle of Man, we don't buy our news in from anywhere. Everything that you hear on Manx Radio is about the Isle of Man is generated by Manx Radio. In fact, lots of people nick our news and pass it off as their own, but everything that we do about the Isle of Man, we've generated ourselves.
Oh, yes, about the Isle of Man, absolutely. But I think we've discussed this before, the Associated Press, you buy your news in from BBC.
No, we get our news from Sky. our international news, anything off the Isle of Man, comes from Sky.
Yeah, and you can group that in with the same mainstream media type of thing there. But I agree. Yes, if Bob the dog goes missing, you guys are straight on it. Absolutely, 100%.
I've just seen Bob the dog on Douglas Head. I'm going to go and get him.
Go feed him.
Thanks for calling today, and I will. Thanks, Joe. And I will tell you, by the way, our international news, anything off the Isle of Man, comes from Sky, which is owned by Comcast.
Everyone's more conscious of energy usage nowadays, so Manx Utilities has begun installing smart meters for standard domestic customers island-wide. With our Smart Living app available too, you'll be in control of tracking and managing your energy. No need to contact us. We'll be in touch when we're ready to fit your smart meter. Visit the Smarter Living page at manxutilities.in. Manx Utilities, delivering a smarter future.
Following a cardiac arrest, for every minute that passes without action, the chance of survival falls by 10%. However, act within 3 minutes using CPR and defibrillator, and the chance of survival can be as high as 70%. A St. John Ambulance CPR and defibrillator course teaches the essential skills required and gives students the confidence to know what to do in this kind of emergency. Find out more. Call St. John Ambulance today on 674 387.
See what's in store now at Ramsey Garden Centre. We've spring and summer bulbs and seeds and plants for tubs and borders, plus onion and garlic sets, seed potatoes, spring planters and more, including azaleas, rhododendrons and roses, fruit trees, primroses and violas. There's something for gardeners young and old at Ramsey Garden Centre. And for exclusive offers, pick up a reward card today. Check on Facebook or call into Ramsey Garden Centre. Open 7 days a week on Albert Road.
Drive smarter, drive more reliable, drive a great deal at Mannin Motors, with a superb range of cars for every budget, always available. And if we don't have it, we'll source it. Plus, servicing, valeting and prestige detailing too. Mannin Motors, Richmond Hill, Douglas. Find us on Facebook or call 420 420. That's 420 420. Drive a better bargain at Mannin Motors.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Ali's on as well. Ali, what about the access road?
Right, okay. Laurie Hooper needs to get off his little pedestal and start thinking about these businesses and people. His opinion is not the only one that matters. So what I was going to suggest is that they get together and they actually give it 6 months. Now let the businesses that need to get established and see if it has any effect on the ambulances. Why don't they just try it? Why is he allowed to dismiss it completely out of hand like this, something so important? And I suggest they get together and give it a go. And if it is affecting it, then the commissioners will, find another route.
Okay, thanks, Ali. Good to hear from you. Got a message in from Ronnie who said, off-piece with this. Is the restaurant still open at the university, at the college? Yes, it is. It used to be called Christary's, now it's called Oaston, by the way, and I think there's a table d'hote lunch at the college. I was never thought I'd be talking about this, but this Thursday there's a table d'hote, and I think there's an Indian themed dinner. Now, if you want more information for the UCM training restaurant, it's 648 200. That's it. That's the Chris Quirk on the phone, so we're with Odin's Raven, and I'll be back tomorrow. Open line.
WINT. 60 years serving you as the nation's station. This is Manx Radio.
1979 was a big year for the island, its own Millennium. The accuracy of the 1,000 Years claim was disputable, but it did the job in attracting thousands more tourists and visitors. Perhaps the most notable episode was the building of a scaled-down replica Viking ship and sailing it from Norway to the island. The image of crew members, training for this arduous adventure, being told to run naked into the waves, will remain with many, and indeed with those crew members. Businessman Robin Bigland was key in the setting up of the extraordinary voyage.
When any group set off on a trip of this kind, their knowledge, particularly in the sea trials and so on, makes them realise that vessels of this kind were superbly adapted for raiding, They're very shallow drafted. They're fast, but inherently they're fairly unstable, and they've only got to lean 11 degrees or so, and they start taking in water over the gunnels, because we only had 22 inches of distance between the sea and the gunnel of the boat. So there is naturally a major concern that you don't get water in the boat from a breaking wave or something of that nature. Because if you do, that water will slop around and very rapidly the boat will tilt, and we know the consequences. As in fact we did discover, because we did capsize.
I named this ship Odin's Raven. A fair wind to the ship, success and prosperity to her brave and valiant crew, to bring her safely to the Isle of Man.
And any moment now, the Millennium Magnum of Champagne will be set loose, and hopefully a good strong swing, and she's launched a first-time shot, and now Odin's Raven slowly sails into the fjord here at Ansoy.
Part of island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio.